1, 2, 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, rock. 5, 6, 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock, rock.
The arrival in England of top American artists like Bill Haley fueled the Quarrymen's dreams.
That right, so join me home. We'll have some fun when the clock strikes 1. Gonna rock around the clock.
But back in the US, rock and roll was facing hard times.
Troop train arrival at Brooklyn, New York Army Base of a tank unit from Fort Hood, Texas. Private Elvis Presley makes this a VIP event.
Negro performer Chuck Berry was sentenced today to 2 years in the Missouri State Penitentiary following his conviction of violating the Mann Act.
This story in from Clear Lake, Iowa. 3 of the nation's top rock and roll singing stars, Richie Valens, J.P. the Big Bopper Richardson, and Buddy Holly, died today with their pilot in the crash of a chartered plane. Their 4-seat, single-engine plane never made it off.
Trouble for American rock and roller Jerry Lee Lewis. Lewis raised the ire of fans when it became known that not only was his bride 14 and his cousin, but that he had forgotten to divorce his previous wife of 5 years.
By 1959, the original stars had been replaced by a new order of teen idol. Clean-cut, harmless, fabricated by the American music industry in an attempt to tame rock and roll. In London, the British music moguls followed suit.
The type of music that was coming out in the charts was this. Got myself a crying, talking, sleeping, walking, living doll. Got to do my best to please her, just 'cause she's a living doll.
Such a roving eye, and that is why she satisfies my soul.
Living Doll was the first million seller for Cliff Richard, who became the golden boy of British pop.
Take a look at her hair, it's surreal. You don't believe what I say, just feel. Lock her up in a trunk.
But while the rest of Britain turned to Cliff and pop music, Liverpool's teenagers still listened to rhythm and blues.
We were playing stuff like Fats Domino, Ray Charles, Jerry Lee Lewis, Chuck Berry. Liverpool is a hard place, and any seaport is hard, and you tend to play more nitty-gritty music.
We had all these canard ships going over to the States, and a lot of the Liverpudlians worked on these ships. They were known as canard Yanks, and they would bring all these fabulous records back, which nobody had except Liverpudlians. And the groups used to grab these records, all these good Gene Vincent, Eddie Cochran records, and they used to mime them.
One of those groups copying records was the Quarrymen, now consisting of John and Paul, both playing rhythm guitars, and 2 new members, a 16-year-old lead guitarist, George Harrison, and an art college friend of John's, Stuart Sutcliffe. To his classmates, George Harrison was the boy whose father drove the bus they all rode to school. The youngest of 4 children, George was the family favorite. But even as a small child, he had an independent and solitary nature. In 1956, George acquired his first guitar. Playing it did not come as naturally to him as to his friend Paul McCartney. But he was patient and determined. His mother sat up with him night after night as he taught himself to pick out Buddy Holly songs. George trailed after the Quarrymen, hoping to join. But John Lennon tended to see George, all of 14, as not much more than a child. He was eventually accepted, not only for his guitar playing, but also because his mother could tolerate their noisy rehearsals. Stuart Sutcliffe, on the other hand, was the most promising artist at the Liverpool Art College. A classmate of John's, he developed an interest in rock and roll as a way of enhancing his bohemian image at school. He couldn't play a note, but was in anyway once he bought a guitar with the money he'd won in a local art exhibition. With the new members came changes in name. First, Johnny and the Moondogs. Then, the Silver Beatles. finally, in 1960, the Beatles. But they still couldn't get paying gigs.
The first gigs I actually saw them doing were at Liverpool Art College, about 1958. Paul and George were going to Liverpool Institute, and John and Stuart were going to the Art College proper. And they didn't have the money to buy equipment, so Stuart and I put forward the proposition that the Students' Union pay for them to get PA equipment. And they began to play at all our dances and regarded them as the regular art school band.